Now, I know a lot of you have been asking for more story, and it just so happens that there's going to be a lot of story videos coming over the next few weeks. First of all, if you missed it, we had a Marvel Rivals video that came out for the story of that game on Monday. Today, we have the end story for Season 1 of Black Ops 6. I got a surprise coming on Friday, and even more coming throughout the weekend. So you're going to want to make sure you're subscribed, have notifications on. Now, hopefully this video looks and sounds okay, because if we actually have a look over there, my computer... My gaming PC is currently on the ground taken apart because I think my PSU actually died, but we got some new shelves and things are looking fancy over in here. But as I mentioned, there is some more story for Call of Duty Black Ops 6. You see, what Call of Duty games have done in the past is they took their story from the campaign, and at the very end, they leave it off on a cliffhanger and add story each and every season. And it appears as though this year that we're going to be getting a new cutscene, a new cinematic at the beginning of every season and at the end of every season. So we talked about it at the beginning of Season 1, now we have the ending of Season 1, and next week, we should have the beginning of Season 2. So, in other words, this video is going to explain the ending of Season 1.
Bounty's good. The hunt begins.
So to understand what's going on in this cutscene, you have to understand what happens at the end of the campaign, as well as what happened at the beginning of Season 1. So let's start at the very end of the campaign. As we know, at the end of the campaign, we have our character of Case, who ends up putting an end and stopping Jane Harrow, one of the leaders of Pantheon. However, as we find out, she was not the only leader of Pantheon. In fact, she wasn't even the highest up person. So Pantheon is very much so still there, and very much so inside the CIA.
The Cold War may be over, but the world is more dangerous than it's ever been. The nature of our enemy is unclear now.
What do you want us to do about it?
What you've always done. Protect us. Harrow may be gone, but not the Pantheon. I need you back in Avalon.
You think you're still a threat?
I do. And worse. Whatever cabal brought Harrow into the Pantheon still lives inside our house.
So this last cutscene that we can see here very clearly shows someone inside the CIA working for Pantheon, and they look a lot like Jackson Kane, a character who we see throughout the campaign who we believe is working for Pantheon, which is going to be confirmed in something I'm going to show you in a minute. However, before we get there, let's talk about what happens at the beginning of Season 1. Because at the beginning of Season 1, we have Savati Dumas, a main character within the campaign of Black Ops 6, alongside Troy Marshall, another main character within the campaign, and they are setting up a plan.
Theon's infiltrated Avalon's underworld. They're after the global crime networks. It's all about influence and control.
We're not gonna let that happen. Zev, what's the play?
We need allies.
So the plan in Season 1 is Savati Dumas and Troy Marshall has moved into Avalon, and they need people to work with, and they're trying to get a hold of a group known as the French Syndicate. Now, the way that they're doing this is they're trying to take down their rivals, the Luttazzi family, and Sev puts together a plan on the several different maps that we were introduced to in Season 1. First up, they set up a forward operating base at Hideout, and then they move into the map Heirloom, which is the Luttazzi's museum, destroy it, therefore creating a distraction. They then move into an area called Racket, that's the 2v2 map that was introduced, and in this one, they are destroying the Luttazzi family's worth, all of their money, all of their jewels, everything that they have, and finally they escape in a map called Extraction. So after completing this, there's essentially three things that we realize. Number one, Pantheon is working with the criminal underworld inside of Avalon, hence why our characters are in Avalon. Now, the worst of the worst guys are someone by the name of the Guild. We haven't really been introduced to them yet, but the Guild is seemingly working with the Lutazis. The Lutazis are the family that we're trying to take down to get someone by the name of the French Syndicate to go on our side so that we have more people working with us. That is the breakdown of what happened in season 1 until the end. So this cutscene takes place on the map Racket. So this is after everything that went down during season 1. So after they went in, after they burnt down all the Lutazis' money, destroyed all of their things to get the French Syndicate onto their side. That is what is going on here. Savati Dumas and our rogue agents, including Troy Marshall, have already been into this area and destroyed everything. Now, as we get further into the vault, that is when we have another character appear. We see a hand holding a pager that has a bounty on both Troy Marshall and Savati Dumas for $1 million each. Now the question, who is this character, is what comes into play, and we do hear his voice.
Bounty's good. The hunt begins.
So this character goes by the name of Nocturne, and it is the character that we see in the season 2 trailer. Now, there's not much known about Nocturne. However, we do know that Nocturne is hunting Savati Dumas, Troy Marshall, and all of the other rogue Black Ops agents as well. Now, from the trailer, we can see that he is at the very least working with Pantheon. We know this because we can see him in several different scenes alongside Jackson Kane, who we discussed earlier, we know is a part of Pantheon. Now there's a couple of options as to who this character could be working for. Number one, just straight up the Lutazzi family. Number two, the Guild, or number three, Nocturne is an assassin for Pantheon. Any of these options are completely possible, and right now that is completely up in the air. But here's what we know moving forward. The season story is going to start out on the map called Bounty. Our rogue Black Ops agents are going to be celebrating their recent victory over the Lutazis alongside the French Syndicate when the bounty goes out for $1 million on each member of the rogue squad. At this point, it's going to be a mystery whether or not the French Syndicate decides to stay with us and be allies or turn against us to try to get that bounty away from the Lutazzi family. At this point, we don't know what is going to happen there, but if we follow what we saw with season 1, we can expect all of the other maps throughout this season to also play in line with the story moving forward. So we're going to have a boat, the dealership is going to somehow be involved, and I don't exactly know what else is going to go on, but it should be interesting. As we can see, the biggest part of these seasons seemingly is the criminal underground of Avalon, which would have made a lot more sense if Avalon was the map currently in Warzone, but as we know, it is not. But what we do know is that Avalon moving forward is going to be an increasingly important part of the story, as well as the several different crime families and groups that go along with it. If anything, we're getting a story closer to the Sopranos than we've ever seen before within a Call of Duty game. But that is all the story we know for now. We should get more next week with the Season 2 cinematic.